This is LBC News.
With Philip Chryssikos, LBC News Time, 23 minutes past 1. Good afternoon. We start with our dominating story, that of the government not denying reports that a rise in national insurance is under consideration to pay for social care plans. Ministers are believed to be preparing to announce an increase of at least 1%, maybe as high as 2%, for around 25 million workers next week. Joining me live on LBC News is Gary Stevenson, who's an inequality economist. Gary, thank you for your time this afternoon. Your reaction to this story?
To be honest, it's pretty shocking, really. Let's look at the situation we're in now. So I think to explain to the listeners, we'll talk a little bit about the numbers, okay? The government apparently needs an extra £10 billion a year to pay for social care, all right? Well, in the last 1 year, what's happened to the economy? Okay, well, ordinary people, many have lost their jobs, lost their incomes, but the super rich have made a fortune, right? The richest person in the country, Leonard Blavatnik, has made over £7 billion in the last year. So he can nearly pay for this himself. The Mittal family have made £8 billion. And the Rubin family have made $5 billion. So just three families in the last 1 year, the money they've made during COVID, could pay for this social care need twice over and buy Cristiano Ronaldo about 35 times on top of that. And yet, in spite of that, the government, whose Chancellor, Rishi Sunak's family, are themselves billionaires, have chosen, instead of taxing the billionaires, they're going to tax ordinary working people. And it's going to be, if it's 1%, an extra £200 tax on an ordinary person. If it's 2%, an extra £400. So while Leonard Blavatnik makes £7 billion, ordinary workers are going to have to pay an extra £400 a year.
Well, why do you think the government is putting this on these ordinary workers? Some arguing that it could be Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister's defining moment, because despite saying in the 2019 Conservative Party election manifesto that this wasn't going to happen, this could be him taking the metal by the horns and really running with it.
Philip, I wish I knew. I mean, you know, if I was a fly on the wall in the Conservative Party office, I'd be able to tell you why. I think it might have something to do with the fact that the Chancellor himself comes from a billionaire family, and that might lead him to have a reluctance to tax billionaires. But, I mean, let's look at the numbers here, right? National insurance, that is a tax which affects only working people. It does not apply to billionaires who get their income from wealth. So if you've got an income of £30,000, you'll pay an extra £200, £400 a year. But if you're a billionaire family, like Rishi Sunak's family, you'll get an income of about £30 million from that wealth, and you'll pay zero. So the numbers here are ordinary working family, 30 grand a year, extra tax, £400. Billionaire family like Rishi Sunak's, income £30 million a year, extra tax, zero. You know, these guys talk about levelling up. I'm not quite sure what kind of levelling up this is, other than making everybody poor except the billionaires, perhaps.
Finally, Gary, is this an idea for more people moving over to being self-employed, where there's a different national insurance tax rate to those who are going to be affected by this if it is pushed through, who are employed and on payroll?
I mean, look, ordinary working people who are increasingly being squeezed by tax while the rich pay nothing, they're understandably going to look for ways around this to pay less tax. And you can totally understand that while the super rich aren't paying their fair share. But realistically, I think if ordinary people want to oppose paying more tax, they're really going to have to come together and pressure this government to change their focus away from taxing ordinary hardworking families and towards taxing super rich families like the one our Chancellor belongs to.
OK, Gary Stevenson, an inequality economist, thank you for your time this afternoon.
Housing could be so much more affordable, wages could be so much higher, and we could have so many more options in how we live our lives. Some of them put a lot of money into paying economists and think tanks to tell you that inequality is important for the economy. That is not true.